Welcome back. Now, the National Homeless Network has come up with a homeless manifesto where demands are set out in 5 categories that they believe need attention. These categories are shelter, sanitation, healthcare, security and economic development. The network is challenging political parties to support them in this regard. To tell us more about this, I'm joined now by Raymond Perrier from the Denis Hurley Centre. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Just very quickly, tell us a bit more about this initiative. A manifesto, is it specifically for the homeless, for instance?
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Masejo. So we saw during the hard lockdown that the actions of different municipalities around the country really have a direct impact on the lives of homeless people in our different cities. So the Denis Hurley Centre, along with other members of the National Homeless Network, have put together a National Homeless Manifesto to challenge the parties competing in tomorrow's or this weekend's local government elections to say what are they going to do to address the specific concrete problems affecting homeless people in their cities. And as you rightly say, it's a national manifesto. There are 5 headings: sanitation, sanitation, shelter, healthcare, security and economic empowerment. But the specific demands are tailored to each municipality because they're very specific needs in each city.
And of course, it also highlights the rights of the homeless to actually vote. I mean, we've covered, for instance, on ENCA how the homeless are forgotten. Some of them lost their homes, and that's why they're in the streets, and lost their IDs in the process. So there's also the whole process of having to reapply for their identity documents.
Absolutely. So legally, of course, a homeless person, if they're a South African citizen, has no less right to vote than any other South African citizen aged 18 or over. The fact that they don't have a home doesn't mean they lose their right. But unfortunately, it has historically been hard for them to assert that right. I'm really pleased with the way in which the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, has worked with us, the Denis Hurley Centre in Durban and other organisations around the country to make sure that homeless people have registered as voters. And we've been working very closely with the homeless community here. We had an opportunity last week of them being face-to-face with local politicians to voice their concerns and to assess the politicians and decide how they were going to exercise their votes.
I see here in one of your statements you say that you did send the manifesto demands out to political parties, but most of them failed to prioritize and respond.
Yes, I found that rather sad. We have dozens of parties competing in eThekwini, many of them very small, 1-person, 2-person parties. We gave them all an opportunity to receive the manifesto and to comment on it and to log their support or indeed log their challenge to it. What's very sad is how many parties failed even to respond. When we held the meeting with the homeless, I'm really pleased that 4 of the major parties, the DA, the IFP, the ANC and Action SA, all sent along senior representatives to talk to the homeless. Curiously, the EFF and ATM, who had been invited and said they were coming, failed to pitch. And again, that shows a real lack of respect for the homeless, who are, as you point out, citizens and voters.
Also, the ANC, I mean, you mentioned here in your statement, which is funny, of course, because that's obviously what they would do. That's how they've been campaigning. You say that they just took credit for all the good they've done, but never really wanted to engage on all the demands that are being made. But this is how they campaign, isn't it? They always tell us about the good things they've done.
Yes, I guess all political parties want you to focus on the good they've done and want to distract attention from the bad stuff. Because the ANC have been running eThekwini for many years now, the homeless have seen at firsthand what the ANC promises, and they've seen how much of that has been delivered and how much has not been delivered. So the homeless don't need me to tell them whether the ANC has delivered on their promises or not. They've seen that on the ground, both the positive and the negatives.
All right. Now, I'm just going to ask you a question that I think probably a lot of South Africans are tired about. But what's the way forward? I mean, when it comes to the homeless, so many demands come from the homeless and people who, for instance, have been applying for homes through government, portals, etc. But nothing's really been done. And we always remember those people when it comes to seasons such as election season. So I guess I'm just asking you what the way forward is for the homeless to always be remembered that they too did cast a ballot and they too need services rendered to them.
Fundamentally, homelessness in South Africa is an economic problem which becomes a social problem. But at its heart, it's an economic problem. People are drawn from rural areas to the cities looking for work. They don't find work. They end up on the streets. And obviously, because they're living on the streets, they then get drawn into addiction and crime and so on. That then becomes a bigger social problem. So we can address homelessness by addressing some of the economic failings in our society, and that's about fair distribution of wealth. It's about access to opportunities. One of the demands here in eThekwini, there are homeless people who want to make a living, but unfortunately the rules and the actions of the municipality make it so hard for informal traders to make a living in central Durban. If we help people to make a living, they can look after themselves. They don't want to be dependent on handouts. They don't want to be dependent on other people's charity, no matter how generous they are.
Well, let's leave it there for now. Thank you very much, Raymond Perrier from the Denis Hurley Centre.